I knew that we had an idea that was going to be the most accurate tunnel in the world, in my opinion, and we could do it and make it at a price accessible to the everyday cyclist. I took that back to the team at Boardman and they were all over it. They could see the value of this, and just for themselves as enthusiasts could see, we want to be the first people to do this. And that's exactly what we're in the middle of doing. I had a small go in a wind tunnel many years ago, nearly 30 years ago, with Lotus just before the Barcelona Olympics, and I think it's no coincidence that I was successful in Barcelona. We had a piece of knowledge that other cyclists didn't have about what really makes you go fast, getting small and being aero.
And Chris Boardman is going to take the gold medal to become the 4,000 metre Olympic champion, and he does just that.
We, for the first time, looked at what drag was for a cyclist, and we were able to compare the Lotus bike with what the rest of the team were using, which at the time was round steel tube bikes. And it was absolutely fascinating. Probably the biggest thing to come out of it was a Lotus aerodynamicist called Richard Hill came along, who wasn't a cyclist. And that was a massive advantage because he didn't know what you couldn't do. He wasn't constrained by what a cyclist is supposed to look like on a bike, and he said, can you do this, can you do this, can you do this? And we really explored. And I think the biggest thing that came from that experience for me was more than the Lotus bike, which looked beautiful, was actually my position. And there's something that I took forward and made an enormous difference for the next 10 years.
Chris Boardman is the Olympic champion. What a fantastic display. And there'll be some celebrations tonight, believe me.
The experience with Lotus was the first look at wind tunnels and understanding of aerodynamics. But because I was then in the middle of a career, I forgot about it.
So he's out of the start house, a magnificent crowd. Now the question is, can he do it and get the yellow jersey for Britain?
We understood the principles and we tried to apply them everywhere. And I think myself and Peter Keeman were the first people to bring aerodynamics to the professional world properly. And that really showed in prologue events and a real understanding of aerodynamics.
Look at the ride by Boardman. This is going to be a superb time. He will become the first British rider to wear the maillot jaune of the Tour de France since Tom Simpson in 1962.
I literally didn't really think about wind tunnels again right until I started to work with British Cycling and then had the opportunity as head of R&D to go and hire a wind tunnel. And I remembered some of the head-scratching things that happened back in the Myra tunnel in the early 90s and thought, oh great, I'm going to get some answers. So we went into the wind tunnel and I went and devised some tests to see what would happen if you changed this piece of clothing or whatever it was we were looking at, and came out with a couple of answers and an even bigger bag full of questions. 10 years later, having spent thousands of hours in a wind tunnel, sometimes up to a week, a month, I still had as many questions as I had answers. And I think that was the biggest fascination, that you will just keep understanding more and more and more. So it's not a one-off thing. You can keep using this tool and squeeze more out of performance, which is what we did for more than 10 years.
And the crowd are going berserk. And Chris Boardman has done everything he promised the world.
Having seen the impact that aerodynamics had for Olympic athletes, I could see absolutely no reason why this wouldn't have been hugely valuable to somebody riding time trials or triathlons, or even sportifs where you might be going slower but you're out there an awful lot longer. So aerodynamics affects everybody who wants to go more than 10 miles an hour on a bicycle. We just wanted to make that available, and to do that was a real challenge.
Quite a high level of light.
One of our principles is we don't want to tell people. We want to create an environment where they can go and look for themselves. I think that way, as a company, we build trust as well. It's something I want people to believe in us. For me, the Performance Centre it's just the most exciting thing I've ever done in my adult life, because it's been a dream of mine for more than 7 years, and at last it's coming to fruition. Months from now, not even a year from now, the doors will be open and people will be able to use it.